Here's a question for you. The Justice Department has filed a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Arizona's new immigration law. That is according to the Associated Press. It reports the suit argues requiring state and local police to question immigration status during the enforcement of other laws usurps federal authorities. The Associated Press says an announcement will be made later today. Now to that question, we are learning an Arizona state senator is considering a law that would require at least one parent to prove they are in the U.S. legally before the child that's born in this country would be issued an Arizona birth certificate and therefore granted American citizenship. A brand new Rasmussen poll shows 64% of Arizonans agree with denying citizenship to children of illegal immigrants. When you look at the same question nationwide, support is still at 58% nationwide. Let's talk about it with Dan Stein, the president of the group FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Simon Rosenberg is the president of NDN, a think tank, which is also advocating immigration reform, but in very different ways. Gentlemen, welcome. Dan,
nice to be here.
Dan, this notion that Arizona, again, it's not a law, it's just a consideration. Arizona would perhaps not issue birth certificates to children who were born in Arizona but could not prove, born of parents who could not prove, at least one of them, that they are not in the country legally. Does that sound like it's possible?
Look, Arizona, once again, is leading the way in trying to find some real solutions to America's immigration crisis. Look, language that was drafted in the 19th century, the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, arguably the way it's being interpreted now, it's defeating the operation of U.S. immigration controls. We've got some 4 million people who are born here to mothers who are here illegally. It's a major impact on U.S. education. Clearly, the policy of granting citizenship when the parents are here illegally is out of step with the norm for post-industrial information societies worldwide. It's ultimately bankrupting many local communities. And if we were to change the Constitution or amend it at the federal level, which is, of course, the optimum approach, we would be actually rationalizing a process of defining the term subject to jurisdiction to be consistent with the fact that the mother has to submit herself to U.S. jurisdiction by knocking at the door and asking to come in. Now, right now, the children of ambassadors, for example, are not considered citizens because they're not considered subject to U.S. jurisdiction. The treaty power negotiates diplomatic immunity for those people. By the same token, you can make the argument that Congress can clarify the 14th Amendment to mean that mothers who have never submitted themselves to U.S. jurisdiction and whose presence here is completely outside the law, and for whom there is no social contract, those children should take the citizenship of the mother.
Let's get to Simon first of all. Simon, 64% of Arizonans agree with this idea that if you can't prove you're in the country legally, your baby doesn't get to become an American citizen. What do you think about that?
I think what's being debated now, and with the federal government joining into the suits of other organizations against the Arizona law, is that part of what has to now be entered into this debate is about the proper role of the federal government in the immigration system. I mean, just like, let me read to you part of the 14th Amendment that Dan was referring to, that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. I mean, part of what Dan says in his own writing and said in his own remarks is that the right place for us to be having this debate is in Congress, that at the end of the day, it's the federal responsibility to enforce the immigration laws, to construct the immigration laws. And if, as Dan said, if the 14th Amendment is no longer applicable, with a very simple thing, if you're born here, you're a citizen, right? If that is something that groups want to reconsider, they have the ability to do that, not at the state level, but, right? But at the federal level. And I just want to agree with what the president said last week. The president said, clearly, that Congress has got to step up here. The system is broken. We need a better immigration system in America. Let's let these opponents of what's happening in Arizona come to Washington and encourage the two parties to work together to fix the broken system. I think that's what we need right now.
Wouldn't you agree, though, that Arizona essentially passed this law because it was tired that of the federal government not doing its job and not enforcing the borders?
I agree with you. And the truth is the Democrats tried to pass immigration reform in 2006 and were blocked by the Republicans. They tried in 2007 and were blocked again. They've tried in this Congress and they blocked again. At some point, the Republicans in Washington, the Washington Republican Party, is going to have to get to a better place on this. All they are is no.
Well,
they're going to have to come together with the Democrats to figure out how to build a better immigration system. The Democrats clearly want to do this.
So
they need a partner in the Republican Party to do this together. It would be better if this was done in a bipartisan way.
So, Dan, now you've got the prospect of the federal government suing Arizona because Arizona wants to, I guess, enhance immigration enforcement?
Well, and sadly, Simon's making this sound very partisan. You know, what the president said in his speech last week was, fears about immigration are irrational, and people have always had them, and there's really nothing the federal government can do to enforce the law anyway, so you need to follow my plan, which is a big fat amnesty bill. I noticed that the president and the administration didn't have any problem when New York and other states were giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens, which in our view is a clear violation of the Supremacy Clause, the prerogative of the federal government to decide immigration. Right now, the Obama administration has painted itself into a corner. No enforcement, let everybody stay. Let's try to pack the polls with people who are sympathetic to newly legalized illegal aliens and turn this thing into what is a decimation of the fundamental
287G, $500 million, Dan. There's such garbage coming out of your mouth. It's unbelievable.
Oh, boy.
This administration is sadly politicizing an issue, and why the Republicans aren't going to meet this administration head on is because all the administration wants to do is let everybody stay, ignore the rule of law, and encourage more lawbreaking.
We are going to have to leave the discussion there. You can see why this fight is so partisan in Arizona and elsewhere.
Shouldn't be.
Thank you both.